Hi, in this tutorial on DLT's new generic REST API source, I'm going to share how to use authentication. Also, I'm going to share how we as developers gain productivity by DLT's type annotations. So let's go. In the previous tutorial, we have seen how a basic REST API source configuration looks like. We have a client, we have resource defaults optionally, and we have a list of resources, which can be a simple string or a dictionary with more complex options. And then we have also learned how to specify parent-child relationships. In this example here, we have the berry details resource, which fetches from base URL /berry name. And the berry name here is resolved from the berries resource, which gives us a list of berries. And then from there, we take the name and put it here. And in this way, we get /berry/cherry berry details. All right, so the same structure we're going to use here. We have a config object, and with that config object, we pass it to the REST API source constructor, which gives us the source, which we then plug into the pipeline and run it. The first thing I'd like to show is that this config dictionary is actually a typed dictionary, which means that we can benefit from runtime type checks and also auto-completion in our IDE. So for this, we're going to import the REST API config and type it as REST API config. And now when we hit the control space, we see the different keys that are available. So the client. And here again, we see what kind of keys are available. For example, base URL, which we need. So in this tutorial, I'm going to load data from Freshdesk. For this, I created a demo account, and from there I got our base URL. I'm going to paste it here. And then we need to say which kind of resources we would like to load. And I will start with tickets. So Freshdesk is a system where we can manage support tickets. So let's run it. And the first thing we see is we get the 401 client error unauthorized. So to resolve it, we can specify here also the authentication method. Now Freshdesk uses HTTP basic authentication. And the way to implement it using the REST API source is as follows. So from REST API.auth, we import the HTTP basic auth class. And then we need to instantiate it as follows. So we say basic auth equals HTTP basic auth. And this constructor gets a username and a password. And as a username, it wants to have an API key. So the API key I retrieved here from my profile. So I copy that. And now instead of pasting it in plain text here, I'm going to use DLT's mechanism it offers to manage secrets. To create a secret, we're going to open the secrets TOML file, and we can put the secret here. And don't worry, after the screencast, I will revoke this API key. So I'm going to call this token. And now we can also structure these secrets. If you have multiple secrets, we can structure it, for example, sources.freshdesk, and then have a token here. So this means with sources.freshdesk.token, we can access it now. DLT secrets, and now sources freshdesk token. And as the password, it will be empty. And now this basic auth object we can pass in here because this key here accepts as a value anything that is one of these classes that are given here. In other words, the auth key here accepts something which is callable, like the HTTP basic auth. And if you look into the code, it modifies the request. And how it does it, it base64 encodes the username and the password with the colon in between. Excellent. Let's run again. And success, we could authenticate to the API. Let's check out if we could load some data. So use Freshdesk, show tables, and we have tickets. And hooray, we have 3 tickets, which is exactly what we expected. Here in our demo dashboard, we see that we have 3 tickets. So this is one way how we can specify authentication. Let's look at other ways. However, when we have a more simple form of authentication, the bearer token authentication, then we can just pass the token into the auth value and don't need to put a callable object which modifies the request. Let's look at it with the example of GitHub. So in this pipeline, I'm going to call the GitHub API, and from there I'm going to retrieve the issues that were created by me. And now for authentication, we can actually also pass in a dictionary which has the bearer token here. So just as before, I can say DLT secrets and sources.github.token. And now I will add it to the secrets.toml file. Sources.github token equals. And again, I'm going to revoke this token after the tutorial is done. Now let's run it. And we see that we got 2 issues that were created by me. This concludes this tutorial on authentication. We saw that we can specify the HTTP bearer token, that we put a token key value pair into the auth value inside the client. And we saw that alternatively, we can also use different forms of authentication, such as HTTP basic auth, but also OAuth. But for this, we need to pass a callable, which is a subclass of the auth config base. All right, let me know if you learned something from this tutorial. And if you wonder how to implement some specific pipeline using DLT's REST API, let me know, and maybe we can do it together in an upcoming tutorial. Ciao!